Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Tuesday, October 21st, a little before 7:30 at night, and this is our daily recap video for our YieldMax weekly paying funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, LFGY, the Crypto Option Income Strategy Fund, and then a quick highlight of SLTY, the Ultra Short Option Income Strategy Fund. We don't go in as deep of detail on that one. Reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1 if you want to know when videos are premiering so you can catch the live chat or reposts of the different funds making their announcements, and or if you want to see your shout outs, if you like to support the channel through Buy Me a Coffee. If you read my write-up on that, I do explain I don't drink coffee, so we'll call it Buy Me a Share. And ULTY's getting down to the price of a cup of coffee anyway. So, all right, let's take a look at how the market performed today. It was an odd one, but ULTY started low, broke even, and then dropped back down, ending in the negative by almost 1%. When we look at LFGY, this one is really odd. So on this finance app, it's showing as closing at 37.42, but when we open up LFGY on our spreadsheet and pull the automatic, you can see Excel's pulling it and it's showing up 37.03, so in the negative. So had a hard time deciding which way to color it. And you can see that it's whatever it was happened right at the last second. So here's 359 and the stock price is at 37.01, and then at close it jumped all the way to 37.42. So that must have just been a like a big spread in the buy ask, and somebody maybe put a market order in or what. But either way, it's going to be interesting to see which price the distribution gets pulled out of. So we'll find that out. Once the distribution gets, or the download comes out late tonight, or we might have to wait till tomorrow. But okay, we don't need this tab. We've already finished this video. If you are into any of the four major YieldMax single ticker funds, the video for that is already out for today. So let's start with ULTY. Yesterday, if you caught the video, there was an issue with YieldMax's website putting out the trades. We were able to get them early this morning, so I input them. They're in gray now since they're yesterday, but we were able to capture all the information. They made $8.2 million trading, and we already knew about the $23 million increase in the value of the shares. So now for today, as far as our trades are concerned, we have a whole lot of closing out our sold call at the higher strikes and lowering them closer to the money to pick up more income. That's the case for Cipher Mining, $575,000 credit, CoreWeave, $1.4 million credit, Hims and Hers, $375,000 credit, and Iron, $504,000 credit. Lululemon, this one's different. This is a put spread with no shares, where they closed it out. They finished it off for the week and rolled a new one for next week. So it got very cheap to close out. As you can see, the difference of about 10 cents per share closing it out. And they started the next one for next Friday. So nice win on that one. MP Materials Corp, again, just closing out some of the sold calls and adjusting them down closer to the current share price. $1.1 million credit, still staying for the same week. In fact, everything other than that Lululemon put spread is still going for this Friday. Quantum Computing, that's QUBT, brought in $1.2 million. Same thing. They're not adjusting the entire collar strategy, just the sold calls, bringing them down closer to the money. Rigetti, again, same thing, $1.1 million credit. And then finally, Upstart, this is an actual adjustment where we're closing the sold calls and the sold puts and the long puts, but it wasn't a complete closeout of the position. It's roughly half or close to half of the contracts. That's why it didn't get orange, because we're not removing that from the spreadsheet. It'll still be there tomorrow, just have some new numbers as well. So that one did cost us $2.6 million. So all in all, it was another positive trading day. Options trading brought in $5.2 million, but obviously most things went down within the fund today, so that dropped the value of the shares within the fund by around $91 million. When we switch pages and go look at our holdings to see how they performed, we have, actually I've got a spreadsheet. Let me bring this to light real quick. So this is the average, the weighted average. So it takes into account whether there's 6% of the money in a fund or 1.8% of the money in the fund. So on altogether, the weighted average of everything within ULTY dropped by 3.4% today. But ULTY only, it still hurts obviously, but ULTY only dropped by about 1%, less than 1%. So that is your protective puts working. That is your, your sold calls that are heading towards expiring worthless working. So I get it, things are going down, but it's because the underlyings, it's not NAV erosion. It's not something's wrong with ULTY. It's if the share prices of everything in it goes down, their price is going to go down, but they are controlling the bleeding way better than what could be if they didn't buy protective puts and didn't trade the way they do. All right, so Affirm Holdings was up 3.3% today. $75 calls are still 0.6% out of the money. Bitmine Immersion was down 3.4%, bringing their 55 calls to 5.8% out. There's $10 million in cash and other, and another $475 million in government obligation funds for $486-ish million. I call it dry powder. It's not always considered that. But Cipher Mining was down almost or over 9%, and they weren't our biggest loser. So that's how you know today's going to hurt. They did close out and roll these $22 calls. We talked about that on the last page. Centene Corp is our first put spread with no shares. With a 36.11 close, these $36 puts are still 0.29% out of the money. So that's kind of a perfect spot for them. They could just sit there all week, and we'll close these out for a win. Coinbase was down 1.5%. They've got calls at 342.50 and 352.50. Pretty evenly spread, 22 and 2300 contracts, 1.1 and 4.1% out of the money. They also sell some puts on that one as well at 270 that are 20% out. And I don't mention the long puts. These are basically our insurance policy. We don't really talk about them except for when the stock drops so much that they pick up a bunch of value and kind of save us from losing too much on our share price. CoreWeave was down 1.5%. They adjusted these 143 calls closer. They do still have $110 puts that are 12% out of the money. Those are short puts. They sold them. Figma up a fraction, 0.02% or 1 penny. $61 calls are 9.5% out of the money. Galaxy Digital, this is a second put spread, selling the 37.50s. They're 12.5% out of the money. We're going to see that get closed for a win here real soon unless there's a major drop. Hims and Hers down almost 3.9%. They took the win on the further out of the money calls. They still have 54s in play, 9.4% out, and puts sold at 42 that are almost 15% out. Robinhood down 2.9%. Calls sold at 140 are 6+% out of the money. Iron Limited down 6.8%. Further out of the money calls got closed and rolled to a closer strike. 62s are still in play, 12+% out of the money. Lucid Group down 1%. $21 calls are 6.6% out. Lululemon, we talked about this. This is the third put spread. that they they actually had closed the whole thing, rolled it out to next week, took the win on it. As you could see, as of the close yesterday, they were over 60 cents spread or difference between the two. So that's the amount you'd be paying, roughly 60 cents times 6,000 times 100. But instead, it dropped all the way down to within 10 cents. MP Material Corp down over 10%, and this one's not the biggest loser either. This is looking ugly. Both sold calls got adjusted closer to the money, so they did take the win on those two. Strategy up 1.79%. Unfortunately, this first call was already in the money and went deeper. They're now 3% in the money. 305s are still out of the money by 1%. Palantir down just a small fraction, 8 cents, and the 185 calls are 1.9% out. So I don't mention every single number if you're new to the page, but this line over here is contracts or shares. So if it's in gray along with the actual stock, it's shares. It's the amount of shares they have. And if it's in white, then it's contracts. It's option contracts. And each one is worth 100 shares per contract. Pony AI was down just about 2%. Their $20 calls are almost 4% out of the money, and $16 sold puts are nearly 17% out. Quantum Computing down 7.4%. Took the win on both these sold calls, adjusted them closer, and they have $15 puts sold that are 6.25% out. Rigetti Computing was down 7.6%. Two further out of the money positions got closed and rolled closer. The 47s are still in play, and they're 17.5% out of the money. $37 puts sold are 7.5% out. Rocket Lab was down 2.9%. They have calls sold at 67 and 67.50, nearly the same amount. 2.4 and 3.2% out. Puts sold at 52 and 53 are just about 19 and 20% out of the money. Rocket Companies down 0.5%. That's actually not the worst thing in the world here. They were already in the money. They're still in the money, but they've gotten dropped closer, so that's going to decrease the cost to close out these sold calls, as well as another day of time value decaying away. $17 calls are still 0.2% in. New Scale Power, the big loser today, down 13%, more than 13%. Can't believe they didn't close these out. But calls are sold at 46, 55, and 57. They are anywhere from 20 to 48.5% out of the money. Sold puts at 36 are the closest here, 6% out of the money. They actually do have, take a look at these puts. So these puts are worth a ton of money right now. These are your protective puts. So yes, it did hurt. That 13% drop decreased the value of our 4 million shares by $23 million. But if you take a look at these puts, this is before today's 13% drop. So these will have greatly increased in value. But even before that, worth over $16 million just sitting there. So that's going to be much more, probably well over 20 million by the time we get the download to catch what they were valued at. SoundHound AI down 4.3%. Calls sold at 20.50 and 21, 12.5 and 15% out. $15.50 puts are also sold 15% out. A lot of 15s in there. Symbotic was down 0.8%. $69 calls are still in the money by 1.25. $71 calls are 1.5% out of the money, and they have puts sold at 55 and 57, 18 to 21% out. Finally, Upstart, back-to-back days being the biggest gainer in the fund, up 4.25 today. Unfortunately, the calls were already in the money at the start of the day, so any increase in value was not able to be captured because it would have also resulted in a increase in the expense to close out the calls. But we did see that they closed a portion of these out. So 9,000 of them of the 17,500. So half got uncapped, while the other half stayed. Okay, when we started the day, ULTY was at $3.1 billion in assets under management. Yesterday, people sold out of the fund, dropping the outstanding shares by 6.3 million, still just barely above 600 million. After today's drop, who knows, we may be under that. We may soon drop out of the $3 billion club too. It only take one more bad day. NAV at the start of the day, though, 519. So you were getting it at a little bit of a discount. And then the price dropped to 514 throughout the end of the day. We did forget to, on the this page, make mention. If you missed it, I do have a separate video where I talked about declarations for today, go into everything from Group 1, all these weeklies. But 9.03 cents was the announcement for today. So today was declaration day, Wednesday is X day, and Thursday will be our payday. So they're keeping the 9-cent streak alive. I had guessed 8.5. They did have a good Monday. That seems to happen a lot. They have a good Monday and it tips them over. But I missed. My guess was off by 5.8%, and I'm happy to get surprised to the upside. So, hey, they're paying you more than we expected. So, hope you're happy. All right, next we're going to talk about LFGY. Sorry, I needed to get a drink, so I quit coughing. Okay, similar to ULTY, like we said yesterday, the trades weren't working, so I got them today, entered them all in, and yesterday LFGY had a surplus or a credit of $74,000 on the trading day. They also increased in value by 7.8 million. Today, as you can see, so when I look at this, I'm used to it now, but maybe you guys aren't. None of these are closeouts. You'd see a BC for a buy to close. So none of them are closeouts. All of this, 100%, is all selling more and buying, but we'll call it selling of call spreads, right? So they're selling $57 call and buying the $64 call. So they're just adding to the positions that they already have within the fund. So when that's the case, we don't break these down line by line because sometimes you get trades that are in here for exactly $34. So if there's no complete close and rolls, we just sum it all up and move on. That's the case today. And it resulted in a $38,000 credit on the options trading. We're going to see a $4 million-ish decrease in the value, excuse me, of the holdings. And they announced a 57.85 cent per share distribution. I had guessed 59, so pat myself on the back for that one. Missed it by just under 2%, and that came out to be a nice percentage. I think it was like 81% or something like that. But so I'm sure everybody's happy with that one. LFGY has been paying nicely and maintaining and actually growing for almost a month and a half straight. So very happy there. When we take a look at the underlyings within the fund, Bitmine Immersion is first, down almost 3.5%. Now they don't trade a collar strategy. There's no protective puts here. So if things start dropping, it's going to hurt quick. But selling calls and then sometimes, a lot of times, buying calls the other side of a put spread or a call spread. 57s are 9.7% out of the money. BitDeer Technology down 7.4. So these 25s were in the money before today. That brought them out of the money by 5.6%. Cash, there's 4.3 million on hand. Government obligation funds, 428,000. So 4.8 million total. On the sidelines, Clean Spark was the big loser, down about 8%. Their $20.50 calls are 9.2% out. Coinbase down 1.5%, 7% out of the money on the 362.50s. Core Scientific was up almost 2.25%. They're still 4% out of the money on their $20 calls, and they also have sold 22.50s. They're 17% out. Circle Internet Group down about 0.75%. 145s are 11.6% out of the money. iShares Ethereum Trust ETF almost up 0.5%, still 7.3% out with those 3250s. Galaxy Digital is the big winner today, up over 8%. That did take their $42 calls into the money by 2%. No action taken. As we said on the trading page, nothing got closed out. So even though they went in the money, they're going to let some time value decay, see if there's a little bit of a bounce back or a pull back off of that big jump. GameStop down 2.4. 2350s are 3% out of the money. Robinhood, and I should mention again, everything, unless I say otherwise, is expiring this Friday. Robinhood down 2.9%. 140s are 6+% out. Hut 8 Corp down over 6%. 52s are 10, almost 11% out of the money. iShares Bitcoin Trust, there's no options. It's just the shares. They went up almost 0.9% or 158,000. Mara was down 3.18, but they're still above 20. The 2350s are 17% out of the money. MBTX, they've got two spreads. A call credit spread selling the 270, it's 2% out of the money, and buying a put debit spread where the 255 is the one we're focused on. This expires at the end of the year. And just a couple days ago, that was worth almost $8 million. It's already dropped to $6 million because MBTX went from like 251 to 264. So they're now 3.5% out of the money. Since we're buying that spread, that debit spread, now you want it to go in the money. Mercado Libre was up 1.9%, taking their 2115s, that's $2,115 per share, into the money by 1.25. Strategy was up almost 1.8%, still another 3.5% to go on those 31250s. NU Holdings was down 1%, so it's a good thing they didn't close out yesterday. So another day went by, another percent dropped off. That's going to drop the value or the cost to close these out. 15s are still 1.6% in the money. Nvidia was down 0.8, so they were slightly in the money. They're now 0.75% out on those 182.50s. Opera was down 1.8%. 18s are almost 14% out of the money. PayPal up 1.2%, taking their $70 calls just in the money by 5 cents. Nothing to panic about yet. Riot Platforms down 6.09%. So here's another one. So these were all just about 7% in the money at the end of yesterday. And so fortunately, they didn't panic and pay a huge price to close them out. The very next day, they drop a ton. So that's going to be much cheaper to close out. Still 0.8% in the money on those 2050s, and 21s are 1.6% out. And finally, Block up 1.5%, a little more than that. Took their 77s into the money by 0.9. So that's how we had a decrease in the underlying shares value. So that's not the overall value, because every single option is going to fluctuate in its value as well, cost to close out or value. So that's why we never really have the full picture of what it did. So this is just some ballpark numbers. Hey, now we got it. So this, it only took us half the night. Now it's updating and acknowledging that it closed at 37.42. Assets under management, 223 million. I feel like we sat at like 185 to 190 forever. Couldn't get over 200, and now we're another 10% past it. So, like I said, LFGY has been doing great. 223 million in assets under management. Yesterday, people bought into the fund, adding 100,000 shares, bringing outstanding shares just under 6 million. NAV at the start, 37.38. Had that last minute recovery to move up to 37.42 on the share price. That should be green because it's 5% or greater. So our average call is now 5% out of the money. And that's everything for LFGY. Finally, we have SLTY, but they're not getting a whole lot of airtime, so we'll get through this real quick. We'll just talk about trades. They shorted some more ASTS, and so then started more of a reverse collar strategy on them. That was yesterday. That brought in $2,000 on the option trading side of things. We don't count the buying or selling of shares in our options trading. And then they didn't do any trading today, so that's an even $0 for trades today. They announced 62.62 cents per share. That was huge. It was actually the largest dollar amount announced today. Not the highest percentage, but so I would have been a lot closer if I stuck with my IV estimate on my guess from Sunday, 67 cents. But instead, I didn't think they were going to go anywhere near that, and I guessed 48. They came out with a 62. I was 23% off. So, whoops. All right, and nothing new added to the fund from yesterday. Nothing changed. So, just shorting AMD, selling puts at 222.50. AST Space Mobile selling puts at 79. BitDeer selling puts at 22. Circle selling puts at 124. Enphase selling puts at 35. GitLab puts are sold at 44.50. IonQ puts are sold at 63. Kratos Defense and Security puts at 86. Lemonade selling puts at 46. Nebius Group selling puts at 105. Reddit selling puts at 190. RH selling puts at 167.50. Tesla's puts sold at 420, and United Airlines selling puts at 100. So that's about everything. Well, here we'll even say that BitDeer was the biggest loser. So in a shorted fund, that actually helps. That increased the value by 155,000. GitLab was the biggest gainer, up 5%. That hurt the fund because those shares are shorted. I don't know if I actually remembered to update that. Let's check real quick. Where is SLTY? 39.24, so I did not. 39.24. NAV started the day at 38.90, 17.5 million in assets under management, 450,000 outstanding shares, and the average put is about 4% out of the money. So that's all I have for you. I got a dad joke. If you already watched the $1 Billion Club video, it's going to be the same. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I got a calendar that I get my dad joke off of every day, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to look up extra jokes every single day without repeating. So if you already heard the joke, sorry. If you didn't, then you can get a little chuckle or a groan. But thanks for watching. Appreciate all the likes, shares, comments, feedback. And so here is your reward for listening to me talk for almost 30 minutes. Humans are born with 4 kidneys. When they grow up, 2 of them become adult knees. All right. Thank you. Have a good night. Good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll catch you in the next video.